Wrestling POV content may not be suitable to some audiences. Your discretion is advised. Wrestling POV content may not be suitable to some audiences. Your discretion is advised. Wrestling POV's content may not be suitable to modern audiences. Your discretion is advised. Wrestling POV's content may not be suitable to modern audiences. Your discretion is advised. Wrestling POV's content may not be suitable to some audiences. Your discretion is advised. Wrestling POV's content may not be suitable to some audiences. Your discretion is advised.
Hey fans, welcome to another edition of Wrestling POV Global. Oh my goodness, Elio, I did not mess up the opening. I'm your host, TJ Logan. With me, Elio Canella. Elio, last week I had a crazy show. We had the boys.
Last week was a lot of fun. Last week
it was. We had the boys from Wrestling Podcast POV join us.
Yep.
Luckily that Miguel Cole did not join us. I sometimes I have a thing to pick with him, and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'm his biggest fan. Sometimes I just wonder how Rick Serrano III takes him. But then last week, Rick Serrano was poking the bear, and we got a few jabs back in on him, Elio.
Yeah.
We showed the boys at Wrestling Podcast POV they may be our friends, but we can still run circles with them, right?
Yes, we can.
Well, folks, you've tuned into another edition of Global. And Global is where we talk all about great wrestling out there that is not part of the WWE. Me and Elio here are going to go across the world. We're going to talk about some great... there was a lot of stuff going on. There was almost an overload in the last 2 weeks of wrestling, Elio.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. There were a couple of There was one pay-per-view for the ROHL, then...
there was an Impact? Impact had a big thing?
Impact had a big premiere on Pursuit.
MLW had a big show. Everybody, all the guys we covered kind of had big shows. Now, we're not going to talk the ROH pay-per-view. We're not going to talk the Impact pay-per-view. We'll talk a bit about what happened, some of the ramifications from some of those things that are big.
Sure.
But we're instead going to go back to our weekly episodes of ROH, MLW, Impact, and all the fun and kooky shows. And you know what? We have listened to the fans, and we have added WWE NXT UK to our lineup.
Yes, and there wasn't an episode this week because they had their first ever takeover Blackpool pay-per-view.
That's right. We're
on Saturday.
We are going to talk about that episode, and kind of glad they took a break because man, there seemed like there was an overload of wrestling. Mm-hmm. Do you know what wasn't an overload though? What? New Japan did not do very much in the last couple of weeks. Some little tiny.
Usually they do a lot.
Yeah, usually they bombard us when they do. But you know what? Let's get into the rumblings of this week, okay?
Okay.
And first of all, in the news category, I have some interesting news. ROH is talking about bringing in Shibata to Dallas on January 24th to do an autograph session. Many of you know Shibata as the New Japan star who's severely injured with a subdermal hematoma, I believe that's what it's called, when your brain gets kind of jostled in your head from some nasty headbutts he had been doing with Okada, I believe. Took him out. He has not wrestled for almost a year and a half, 2 years now. People say there's a good chance he may never wrestle again, but he is one of the main trainers right now in New Japan's Los Angeles dojo. But he'll be making a rare appearance and signing autographs. I kind of tell you, I'm a big fan of Shibata. I kind of wish I could be there to get an autograph with him.
I have to say, I don't know how some of those Japanese guys do what they do, the hard
the hard
shots
style
they give each other with the punches and the headbutts.
It's a little much, and Shibata is, I guess, a cautionary tale of maybe being careful how far you go because he cut his career down quite a bit with his injury. Now, moving on to...
I mean, it's fun and exciting to watch.
Yeah, but
yeah.
It's like UFC, you know? That's why they only have matches every 6 to 8 to a year because it takes a lot out of you. Real physical, dominating pain takes a lot out of a person. Let's move over to MLW, and I'm not sure, you might not be familiar with any of these wrestlers, Elio. I know you've been jumping head first into the indie world, so some of these guys...
I'm having fun.
Yeah, having fun, but you may not recognize these two names. I have barely recognized them, so First of all, MLW has signed current CZW champion Mance Werner. Now, most of you folks know I've talked about not enjoying CZW. I'm not a fan of death matches. I'm not a fan of this stuff. It'll be interesting to see where it's interesting MLW signing a champion from another company. He'll probably concurrently hold that belt, just like Ray Phoenix and Pentagon Jr. have concurrently held belts in different companies. I think he still might hold a belt. I do not know much about Mance Werner, but CZW champion gives him a bit of a pedigree. We'll have to see how he looks on MLW. I believe in a week or two he'll be debuting on the show. So we'll catch a bit of him.
Okay.
And also, they have signed former NWA champion, the Almighty Sheik. That's a kind of an interest. Almighty Sheik. Now, he used to call himself, I think, Bushido Joe. Obviously, a guy who works with a lot of character stuff. So it'll be interesting to see what the amazing Sheik, or the Almighty Sheik's all about.
The only Sheik I've heard of is Iron Sheik and the original Sheik.
There's Sheiks a dime a dozen in wrestling, I'll tell you that. Anyone who looks swarthy enough to put a towel on their head, they call them an Arab, and you know how it is. Wrestling, you always got to pander to an evil audience, right? Like, somebody's got to be the evil dude. One thing I thought you might be interested in this, Elio. MLW has signed to their next big event a match of Ace Romero taking on Simon Gotch in a rematch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, now we saw on this week's episode of MLW how Ace Romero came out to Simon Gotch's $20,000 challenge and won it. So
he destroyed Simon Gotch when he dropped that elbow.
I wish he could knock the mustache off that idiot, but we'll see how we'll see how the rematch goes with that. Before we get into some of the other signings, I'd like to talk a few injuries. There were two major injuries this last couple weeks, both ironically in ROH. Chris Sabin. Chris Sabin from the Motor City Machine Guns and the Time Splitters, injured knee. And also injuring his knee, Flip Gordon. So let's hope that's not too serious. Those are two guys that kind of very important, especially Flip Gordon, to the ROH landscape right now.
No, I'm just getting to ROH. Chris Sabin is in ROH now.
Actually, Elio, he has been in ROH for probably the last year or two. He wrestles back and forth to New Japan. You don't see him a lot in the big events, but he is there, yes. Okay. Now let's talk something here. And since we're going to talk signings and things, and let's get our opinions, me and you, and make them public, what we think of the people right now signing to All Elite Wrestling. Okay?
Okay.
Now, we'll talk about the core guys after, but let's talk about the guys who made appearances this week, and one of them is a very big name in the world of professional wrestling. But first of all, let's start with Joey Janela. Do you know much about Joey Janela?
My first time seeing him was at the All In pay-per-view. I'd only ever heard of him before, but I got to finally see him in action at All In.
What did you think?
That was a pretty crazy match that he had when he got dropped on his head, like off the top of that ladder.
Yeah, I don't think that was part of the...
Powerbombed on the... He got powerbombed on down along the ramp.
He actually took a bit of an injury in that match and has been out for a while. Joey Janela is one of those guys who his name has been across the indie world for quite a while. He's one of those guys you keep hoping is going to break through that bubble, maybe make it to the WWE. His style, however, has said a lot of people thought might not be a fit for the WWE. I'm glad AEW has given him a chance.
There's one other thing I don't understand. I've seen this around, like Joey Janela's Summer Break or something.
Yes.
I've heard of it. What is that?
Well, Joey Janela actually has enough pull that once a year he puts on an event. It's right around WrestleMania time. He calls it his spring break, and basically it's just a one-night wrestling show where he gets...
so it's actually like an event with matches?
Yeah, it's pretty much like All In was. It's like a kind of separate, no real belts, no real companies. It's just a fun time. Wrestling fans know that they're going to Joey Janela's thing. It's going to be a fun, lighthearted, hard-hitting wrestling matches just for that night.
Okay.
So MJF. Now, here's a guy we saw for the last little while in MLW. He was their... cruiserweight champion or light heavyweight champion or whatever they've called it, and he was injured with a bit of an elbow injury, gave the belt up, haven't seen him for a bit, and boom, now all of a sudden he signed to AEW. That's an interesting signing because I didn't see that one coming.
Yeah, last time I saw him he was doing commentary on MLW. The one thing I didn't like about the one episode that I saw of MLW is when they kept panning back to the announcers when the match was in the ring. I feel like that takes away from the guys that are performing in the ring.
It reminds me of the old WCW days when they spent more time talking about something else than what was actually going on in the ring. I get you. I get you. Now, MJF, that's interesting. This one I didn't see coming either was SoCal Unlimited. SoCal. We're going to talk about the guys. We know them as Frankie Kazarian, Scorpio Sky, and Christopher Daniels.
Oh, seeing there too as well.
All three of them have signed over to AEW. I, just like you, I'm pretty sure, Elio, thought that the whole storylines that they were just, with Christopher Daniels was going to maybe just somehow make a comeback. I guess that was really the swan song. They are now in AEW.
Yeah, because I was saying a few weeks back on a past show that there was a storyline going on in ROH where Joe Koff, I believe it is, and Earl, had a change of heart and gave Daniels a new contract.
No, do you remember? He gave the contract to Scorpio Sky and to Frankie Kazarian, but not...
But after Daniels lost the match, they did another taping where he came out and he had a change of heart.
Wow, I missed that one. That must have been around the Christmas break when we had all that craziness going on. All I know now...
I guess, because I never saw that episode. So.
All I know now is those guys are all in AEW, and you know that ROH will not be picking them up anymore. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a great tag team right there. SoCal United is a definitely really cool tag team. We've managed to see some great matches of them from the last while. And Christopher Daniels, come on, the Fallen Angel is like, the guy's incredible. So
we saw a great match last week on this past Monday on ROH.
On ROH, probably the last match of them in ROH.
Yeah.
Now, AEW is forming up this, there's these signings. Oh, wait, I guess I missed one. And I missed the biggest name of all. Chris Jericho.
Chris Jericho, yes.
Chris Jericho signing. This is a surprise. I mean, people were a little surprised when he went to Japan, but hey, everyone said, well, it's not in North America. Maybe Vince McMahon won't get mad. This is definitely in North America. He is definitely.
He already has his own T-shirt out.
Yeah. And another thing, did you notice on SmackDown at the beginning they pulled his graphics off the opener of the show?
I didn't catch the opening of SmackDown, the opening graphics, because when I log on, usually I log in, it's already in
progress.
Like it's already started, so I missed the opening credits.
Most people don't really notice those, but there are some people who were quick to point out that Chris Jericho was totally removed from those graphics. So definitely the WWE is not too happy with this. Does Chris Jericho have much left in him? Is this a good sign? Do you think AEW... Are they going to get their bang for their buck, or is it just a name that they brought in? See,
because I thought like he always talks to Vince about everything, and he keeps saying, "Oh, Vince is cool with this, Vince is cool with that." I guess someone else isn't cool, though.
Well, I saw a recent video on YouTube with Chris Jericho, and he was talking that the money he's getting from AEW is even more than he was getting from WWE.
Wow!
So that's got to make you wonder what exactly is going like. There's obviously a lot of money going into this. Does AEW have a chance? I think next week we should make a poll for that.
Yeah.
Let's send a poll out there. We're gonna ask you fans. Look at the people that were signed. Look at the current landscape of wrestling, and does AEW have a chance to become as big or on the same level as WWE, or is this thing just going to fold like a house of cards, and there's going to be a lot of poor people at the end, except maybe some wrestlers who got some money in the quick interim. But you know what? Hey, that reminds me. We should let's take a look at last week's poll.
Okay.
Last week's poll, and Elio, I want to thank you. That was your idea for that poll. We were kind of thinking about what we should run as a poll. You suggested talking about the WWE NXT UK. Man, that's a lot of initials. Pay-per-view coming up. Is it too soon to have a pay-per-view?
Yeah, well, that one came to me while I was watching the pay-per-view itself. I was thinking to myself, this would make a good poll. Is it too soon to have a pay-per-view, or should they have waited? Is it too soon to have a pay-per-view, or should they have waited longer?
Without looking at the poll answers, what was your... Did you think it was too soon, or do you think it was a much needed thing?
It was a good introduction, I think. But at the same time, it might have been a little too soon because these are not names that you would see out there every day unless you're into the independent wrestling scene.
See, I got to tell you, just like you, I had my cautions. And the week before this pay-per-view, I remember deciding, okay, I know we're going to do WWE NXT UK in the new year. So I thought, hey, maybe I should jump on this episode and just take a peek at what I was looking at. Now, me and you, we deal with a lot of independent wrestling, but we kind of know some of the major players and we get introduced to other players. Yep. I was confused as hell watching that show who any of those people were. I barely recognized anybody.
I recognized some of them from the very first WWE United Kingdom tournament that they had, like Pete Dunne, Trent Seven, Tyler Bates.
Yeah. But I'm not talking about the pay-per-view. I'm talking about the show that was the week before the pay-per-view.
Oh, the actual show itself.
And I did not recognize.
A lot of those names that I didn't recognize them either.
And I think I was a little bit overwhelmed, thinking, oh my goodness, we're covering this product. It's all in our face. We've got a gazillion new people.
Yeah.
But you know what?
However,
go ahead. However,
the ending of Takeover, I was not expecting that.
Well, we're going to get into that in a couple minutes. But first of all, let's look at the poll. Now, me and Elio, we were kind of erring on the side of caution. We both kind of thought maybe it was a little too soon. Doesn't look like anyone else agreed with us, pal, because 9% of the polling people agreed with us. 91% thought it was time. Well, you know what?
Wow.
That makes me think, if that many people think it's time, then this has a chance. If that many people are going to invest in WWE NXT UK, well, then maybe they have a solid chance. And that makes me happy because the more good wrestling that's out there, the more I'm going to enjoy it.
Well, maybe they're thinking that because of the way the WWE product has been lately.
That's another thing. Well, let's take a look. I have
because I mean, everywhere I look, everyone is always like complaining about one thing or other about Raw or SmackDown or whatever, but no one ever complains about NXT.
That is true. Well, let's take a look here. I got 2 comments sent in to us by 2 of the pollers. One was Matt Nowak, who said, the UK scene was around long before WWE turned up, and these guys have busted their asses. This is a very small selection of what the UK indie scene is, but hopefully it opens a lot of eyes. Wow, this is a small? I think we're in for a big ride here, Ellie.
Yeah.
The next comment I get is from Jason Serrano, who said, I've only watched the first match so far, and I'm loving...
Rick's relative?
What's that? Oh, no, maybe it is. Rick, we're going to have to talk about this. I think about nepotism. Anyways, Jason Serrano says, I've only watched the first match so far, and I'm loving it. The crowd is really into it, and I haven't seen a tag team match like that in the WWE for a while. Might have to start watching NXT instead of WWE. Nail on the head there, buddy. You were just bringing that up. People complaining about the WWE.
Yep.
Well, you know what? I know you still watch SmackDown because you have to cover it.
I do.
Do you watch Raw still?
You know what? I have that sitting on my PVR, and I just like at night, because at night I usually get the TV to myself when like everyone else goes to sleep. So I just go downstairs. I just fast forward through a lot of the stuff because I just can't sit there and watch 3 hours. You
know what? I used to be you. I used to be the guy who would fast forward and try and find some stuff. I got to tell you, I have not physically watched anything of Raw. I'm going to have to say for at least 2 or 3 months, and SmackDown even less. Sometimes if I hear something, somebody highlights that, oh, you should have saw that, I'll go online and look up that match. But man, Raw is just it's like a bloated monster that I just don't want to get into. It's just too much crap.
But see, also Raw is one of those shows where I can walk away for a couple of months, come back, and I know exactly what's going on.
And that's probably what makes it very sad.
Who's feuding with who?
Yeah. I mean, I look on there and I see, they have. We probably shouldn't get too much into WWE, and I just want to say I just have the problem with like the champion who's never there. There's a guy who won Braun Strowman won the suitcase thing. What is that gimmick?
Money in the Bank. Money in the Bank.
So how can you cash that in, Elio, if the champion is never there? Like seriously, it's ridiculous. And SmackDown. I mean, I turn on to SmackDown and Randy Orton is feuding with the same person probably 6 months, a year and a half, 3 years. Like every time it's just the same people.
I complain about the same thing on my podcast on Fridays. We just did one this past Friday, and I was complaining about the same thing the guys over Wrestling POV were complaining about.
Yep. And that's too bad.
And I agree with a lot of what they say over there.
Excellent. Well, you know what? We want to thank everybody who participated in the poll. Like we said, we're going to put up a poll for next week. It's going to be, do you think that the AEW, All Elite Wrestling, let's make it pretty exact. This is the wording I'm going to use. Will the AEW wrestling, will it actually succeed and become something, or will it just flop and be a dismal failure? I'm not even saying match in the WWE. I'm not saying find a TV deal. I'm saying, will they even put on matches and last more than a year as a wrestling thing? Or will they just be a bunch of names that'll just fade off after one or two all-in things? You decide, fans, and send us your comments, what you think. If you even want to talk about the wrestlers, you want to talk about the people who have been signed, the people who have made this possible. And Elio, speaking of that, let's take a moment and talk about that. Let's talk about the core elite guys who are in there. Is this good for them? First of all, Cody Rhodes. Is Cody Rhodes, who now I believe has become the CEO of the wrestling, All Elite Wrestling, he is now the CEO of this company. Wow. Yeah.
Well, it kind of is his baby, his brainchild, right?
I believe so. He's definitely one of the people. Yeah. Him and the Young Bucks, I do believe, are the driving force behind it. Now, when I look at Cody, I think Cody's in a great position. He's been battling reoccurring knee injury quite a bit. As the CEO, he doesn't really need to wrestle a lot. He just has to make the occasional appearance and use his name. So I think it was definitely a good choice. What do you think of Cody Rhodes in AEW?
I think it's a good choice. I hope this doesn't turn out like some other people in other companies where they only put their friends up at the top and everyone else at the bottom. If they even get to sign anyone else, if this is even successful.
Well, the next guys I want to look at are the Young Bucks, and now the Young Bucks. When I look at the Young Bucks, I think this for them was their best move right now. They're both in their early to mid 30s. They do a wrestling style that's incredibly hard on their bodies. They've gone all through ROH. They've gone probably as far as they can in New Japan. I don't think they would be any good fit for the WWE. I think financially and for the next little while, this is probably the best move they could have made. What do you think?
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of them I saw the one match, but from what I have seen, Japan, everyone knows them in Japan. There's no one that doesn't know who the Young Bucks are over there. ROH, they've done stuff, and yeah, I think this is good for them.
Okay. One person I think that I'm not sure if this was good for him or not was Hangman Adam Page. For the last 6 months, I've really seen him come on. In New Japan, he was really starting to make some great strides. ROH, he was becoming, almost a main eventer. I think looking at the names in there, he has a very big danger of falling in the cracks and being just a utility guy that isn't used much.
See, when we did our top 5, if we had done a top 10, he would have been in the top 10.
Of good wrestlers or bad?
Yeah, I know of the best, because I like Adam Page.
I was so impressed with him in the G1 tournament. He really opened my eyes, and I just think he might get lost in the AEW realm, and that's what my fear for him is. Now, I guess that leaves us the possibility of Kenny Omega. He has yet to say anything about this. But you know what? Maybe we should skip Kenny Omega and talk with him in the New Japan section, because he has not signed with AEW.
Yeah, he has, and things have quieted down quite a bit about him.
Yeah, and which is traditional after Wrestle Kingdom. Kenny usually doesn't do anything until the end of January, and then he makes his moves. But AEW, I really hope this takes off. It looks like they have money. If they have money to pay Chris Jericho, hopefully they have money to make others. But they are going to have to sign a lot more wrestlers, and they're going to have to avoid this. You're right. You can't just make your buddy the champion, right? Looking at it now, they only have 2 tag teams. So are the Young Bucks going to be the first champions? Well, it's kind of a vanity project, so I'm pretty sure that's going to happen. Where does that leave SoCal U? Why would they bother? You're going to have to sign a lot more wrestlers. And who's going to win? Who's going to be the top dog? Is Cody going to be the champion? Is Adam Page going to be the champion? If Kenny Omega signs, you got to make him the champion, right? So who loses?
There's there's a lot they have to think about.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really wonder if they've thought all this through.
I hope so.
I hope they have. I have a friend who from another podcast I was with years back, and he he was all about the independent wrestling,
right.
And so everyone's always WWE or WCW or TNA. I'm that one person that goes outside of the company and looks for the independent wrestling.
Right. Well, it's definitely gonna be interesting. Fans, I really hope you participate in this poll. I'm curious what people are thinking out there. And if you've got the comments, if you got the questions you think that AEW should be thinking about, questions that we should be thinking about AEW, please write them in. We'll address them on the show, and we'll get things moving. All right?
Yep.
Now, you know what? In Rumblings, one of the things we always talk about is rumors. This week, I only have one rumor to address. Okay?
Uh-oh.
And this is an interesting rumor, and it's on a positive note. Okay. Due to some interesting words by Triple H, or Paul Levesque, if you will, of NXT fame, and, well, of all the other fame he has, there is rumors that perhaps the next NXT will be NXT Australia. How's that for interesting?
Wow.
It looks like it's becoming a very distinct possibility, and that is what the rumors is, that WWE is looking into that.
Actually, I heard about that, that they were saying something about opening a performance center in Australia.
Exactly, and then after that, developing an actual show in the full bit. So who knows where that's gonna go?
They're gonna make our work even more interesting.
Oh, you mean make our show longer and us more burnt out by as much wrestling as we can? Yes.
I mean, geez, how many NXT shows can we add to our already packed lineup?
Yeah, this week in NXT Bangladesh will be. Let's hope not.
Don't say that too loud. They might
hear you and try it. Yeah. Okay, I'm quiet now. So, folks, that is the rumblings of the week. Let's take a look now at our New Japan. All right, New Japan.
Okay.
Not a lot to say this week. Wrestle Kingdom done. The what was the name of that pay-per-view the big event on the next day? New Year's
Dash. Yeah.
Only one interesting thing of note coming out of New Year's Dash, and I guess New Year's Dash usually sets up who are going to be the next contenders for belts. Not a lot of really things working out there, but I don't know how you feel about this, because I'm not sure how I feel about this, but it looks like they're positioning Jay White to be the first challenger for Tanahashi for the IWGP heavyweight title. How do you feel about Jay White? Do you think he'd make a good champion?
Not really stuck on Jay White. I saw him at Wrestle Kingdom, but I don't get it with him.
Well, I'm going to agree. I think it's a little soon for Jay White. I don't think we've seen him really make himself a main eventer yet. And I think...
Tanahashi just won. I don't want to see a transition champion.
Yeah, it would be kind of a bit of a disgrace. Comes out of after all that work and become a transitional champion.
Yeah.
But I got to wonder now, when is Okada going to start getting his feet back in here? I mean, the guy's probably one of the best wrestlers in the entire world, and we have seen jack out of him this year. Not very much. And still, the big enigma, Kenny Omega. Now, he says he's done with New Japan. However, under a lot of digging, Elio, I found out that his contract doesn't expire till the beginning of February. So he can't even really say anything for another couple weeks.
And speaking of contracts, last week I had asked if the deal with Kushida was done. Mm-hmm. That he was for sure coming to WWE because, and we don't really talk about that on our show, but I'm gonna call it right now. Kushida surprise Royal Rumble entrant.
Ooh, nice. Do you think Kenny Omega is going to be a surprise entrant?
That one I can't really say on him because I'm not sure, but I'm calling Kushida's a surprise entrant.
And you know what? I know in your heart of hearts, I know who you're hoping will be the surprise entrant for the. I know you've been praying every night. I know you've been saying your prayers and eating your vitamins, hoping that Sami Callihan or any of OVE make a surprise Royal Rumble appearance.
Oh, I'm sure you're mistaken about that. You're sadly mistaken.
Well, we'll get to those fools in OVE in the next segment, I'm sure. But yeah, New Japan. Jay White. Not sure if I really want to see him.
Yeah.
I think it's still soon. I think they've really rammed him down our throats the last year. He hasn't really given me enough to say, wow, he's a credible villain.
I maybe want to see him, but not now.
Yeah, I want to see him develop a little more, see him work a little more. I hope this year Tetsuya Naito. It seems Naito had a pretty rough year where he didn't get much play with anything. I hope that he takes a run at the belt. Why not? And I hope we see more of Ishii. It seems Ishii's the forgotten man in New Japan. There's always these guys who are just a little more colorful, a little more, and a little more this than him. And he just kind of, he has these great matches. You look at the cards, he's always in the middle. Mm-hmm. And yet you watch his match, and it's one of the best matches on the whole card, but then people forget him right away. So, New Japan, well, like I said, this week we don't have a lot to talk about. I don't think they have any more big events coming up. They had a little minor event, which was they have it every year, and it's so minor that I don't even really want to talk about it because it's hard to figure it out. It's called something like CMLL Fantastico, and they actually bring a bunch of luchadors from CMLL, the smaller ones, the not so big name ones, and they bring them up to Japan, and the Japanese and New Japan puts in all their junior heavyweights, and they let them have just a night of wrestling, and it's very hard to follow because it's never in English; it's all Japanese. I don't know who most of the wrestlers are that come up. The CMLL is hard to find these days, so I've lost track of who wrestlers are in there. I don't super familiar with this junior heavyweight division in New Japan, so it's basically like a New Japan show with a bunch of guys I've never seen.
I've seen CMLL, not a whole lot, but like maybe once or twice on one of the channels here, and that was like either late at night or sometime on a Saturday or Sunday. Well, it's hard to follow.
It is very hard.
Even the Mexican one.
It is, because it's always in Spanish. There's no translations. The wrestlers, either you know them or you don't. I used to watch CML. Do you know Sin Cara? The very first Sin Cara, not the current one, but the very first one, used to wrestle in CMLL as Mystico. And I used to watch him back when that was on, and that's quite a few years now. But I used to enjoy it. It was crazy. The rules don't make a lot of sense in Luchador. It's crazy all over the place. Who knows who tags?
No, the rules are confusing. Yeah. The rules are confusing. Everyone's in the ring all at once.
Yeah, or
it's like every match is a tornado match.
Yeah, or the weird thing is if you're tagging, you don't necessarily have to tag your partner. If you just fall out of the ring, your partner can jump in and he's legal, and that's confusing as hell.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but who knows? At the rate we're going, Elio, we may be covering WWE, NXT, CMLL Mexico someday. So, but we better not be walking it too hard. We might be in there. So, like I said, that is our look at this week at New Japan. I'd like to take a look, and we said we'd be starting this. Let's look at NXT UK. We're going to go into their first takeover, which is where we're kind of starting our coverage of it. I'd like to go over some of the matches that were on the card. We'll talk a little bit about it.
Okay.
First of all, fans of this stuff, they're crazy, man. They have a lot of fun in the audience. I've never been in a crowd of wrestling like that, eh?
That's because that's not even the first takeover I've covered. I covered NXT Takeover London a while back. I believe that was Nia Jax versus Bayley in the main event. And the crowd, the England crowd is like insane with the chanting that they do and some of the stuff. Yeah.
Okay, well, you know what?
They really get into it.
All right, well, let's take a look at this card. All right, the opening match was to determine the first NXT UK Tag Team Champions. We had the team of Mustache Mountain. We're familiar with them, Trent Seven and Tyler Bates.
Mustache.
Taking on the team of the Grizzled Young Veterans, Zach Gibson and James Drake. Go ahead.
Before you go on, did you notice James Drake? He was the one I was telling you that looks like a 1999 version of Chris Jericho.
Oh, Chris Jericho?
Yeah.
You know who I saw?
See how he looks like him?
I thought he looked a lot like a young Shawn Michaels every time they caught him at a certain angle. without the mustache. Like, wow, he looked, wow, yeah.
Either Jericho or Michaels, but from that era, yeah.
This was a really fun match. One thing that stuck out in my mind, Tyler Bates is incredible. And I think he's kind of wasted as in a tag team, Trent Seven is okay, but I mean, Tyler Bates carries that team. Crazy athletic, did some really unique things. In the end, the grizzled young veterans get the win. Zach Gibson and James Drake are the first NXT UK Tag Team Champions. Mustache Mountain falling short.
Yep.
What do you think of the match?
That one, I really enjoyed that match. And the crowd obviously really got into that match as well. That was a great opening match to get the crowd all excited for the rest of the card.
Well, you know what? The second match, that got everyone very excited too.
That one was a surprise because it was Jordan Devlin who was scheduled to take on Travis Banks. However, he attacked him at the start of the match and before the bell rang.
Banks is out, and who does they bring in?
Finn Balor.
Finn Balor. What a surprise for the UK crowd there. Actually, a very good match. Jordan Devlin looked like he was going to crap his pants when he saw it was Finn Balor. Finn Balor, of course, with the win. Another tremendous match. Devlin.
Now, hold on. Before you go on, did you hear what the announcers were saying?
Which part?
During the match, they said Jordan Devlin was a student of Finn Balor. They trained together.
Yes, and it was kind of uniquely funny how Devlin was claiming he was the best Irish wrestler ever, and then to have his teacher and superstar Irish Finn Balor come out and hand him his ass was pretty funny.
It took like three or four coups de grace to put Devlin away.
Now the next match, I found this one kind of cool because when I did tune into that card the week before the UK takeover, these guys had kind of I don't know, not a run-in, but they had kind of a bit of a mix-up with Eddie Dennis and Dave Mastiff. With Dennis being this guy kind of continually prodding and poking the bear. However, Dave Mastiff in this no DQ match poked the crap out of Eddie Dennis, getting the win. I like this match, hardcore and violent.
Yep, this was a no DQ match. Dave Mastiff is a big guy.
He very much is.
I like him. He was good. This match was really great.
All right, now you know what? As much as I love the women on the WWE's main roster, I'm very impressed with these two women. Rhea Ripley and Toni Storm are big, monstrous women who, I don't mean fat, or they're just big, solid, athletic women. Yep. And man, they put on a great show.
The women on the NXT roster are far more better than the women on the main roster.
Really? Even more than the man?
I enjoy watching.
Nobody beats the man. Come on.
Well, no, Becky Lynch is Becky Lynch is off that list, but
okay, I'm
gonna put her on the. I'm gonna put her on the NXT list.
Okay, fair enough. You're right. There are some tremendous, and you know what? Toni Storm and Rhea Ripley. Watching this match, man, they were both so good. At the end, I didn't know who I wanted to win, and I had no problem with either one of these women winning because man, they put on a tremendous battle, and they both showed they deserved to be the women's champion. Toni Storm getting the win. This is coming right off of her Mae Young Classic win. And now she's the NXT UK Women's Champion. I hope we see Rhea Ripley more in the WWE, in the main roster. I'd love to see her there.
And Rhea Ripley, 22 years old.
That's it? Wow.
She's 22. They said she's only 22 years old.
Amazing. Now, the main event, Pete Dunne defeats Joe Coffey.
Yep.
Now, wow. Interesting match. I know people love Pete Dunne, and I don't understand why. He's a zitty, crazy jerk. I hate all his hand things, cracking your fingers. And to me, that always seems cheap, Like in old wrestling style, you weren't allowed to separate the fingers. Remember that? That used to be wrestling rules. You were not allowed to separate the fingers. Now this guy comes along and he's just bending and cracking fingers. Don't like it. Don't like it, Elio.
No, so I don't get the pose that he does with a fist on his cheek.
There's a lot of things I don't. Are you a fan of this guy?
I wonder if he was okay. I can't really say I'm a fan of his. I like his look, but like his whole like in-ring style and everything, I'm just not a fan of it.
Me neither. It's sort of I think
he just has I like him because he has that cool look.
Really? I think he's zitty. He should go like get some Clearasil or something. When you're a champion, get that zits off your face. You're not 15, man. Come on. Gross. Quit rubbing sugar on your face.
But there's one thing I don't understand is how he holds that belt with his teeth. I don't get that.
I hope his teeth accidentally fell out once. That would be pretty funny. Okay, obviously we're not the biggest Pete Dunne fans, but what do you think of Joe Coffey? He seemed even douchier.
Yeah, I have to see more of these guys. Like I got to see them in earlier episodes that I've seen, and I don't really like the Coffey Brothers.
Okay,
I'm not a fan of the Coffey Brothers, and also Wolfgang is now with.
Yeah, what do they call themselves? Was Bacchus or no? They called themselves something, and Mustache Mountain and Pete Dunne call themselves British Strong Style, and they're feuding with each other. And I don't know.
Wait, Pete Dunne is with Mustache.
Yeah, he's been teaming with them occasionally, and they call themselves English Strong Style.
English Strong Style, okay.
I guess that explains why Tyler Bates isn't taking runs at the belt, because Pete Dunne's his buddy now, I guess. But yeah, I gotta say, overall, it was a fun pay-per-view.
Yep.
I would have probably enjoyed it more had I known these guys more than 1 week of appearances.
Yeah.
But it shows me that, you know what, I guess there can be NXT UK takeovers because they did a great job. The fans seem to love it.
The ending.
Oh.
What a surprise.
Now you're talking about Walter.
When I saw this guy
You're talking about Walter, right?
I'm Walter.
Now
when this guy, I saw this guy come out, I was like sitting there with my mouth open. I was like, oh, because everyone was, the announcers were like, it's him, he's here. And I was like updating it at the time, so I didn't have my screen on. So I'm like, who's here? I flipped the tab on my browser and I saw Walter come out.
Now you've seen Walter before, yes?
I haven't seen him in action, but I've heard the name, I've seen his pictures.
Okay.
This guy's a big dude.
Now I saw this clip the other day that I gotta tell you, no matter what you think of Walter, you're gonna love him when I send you this clip. Because this clip is from, I don't know, maybe 6 months, 8 months ago. He's in the ring with Zack Sabre Jr. Zack is dancing around being a dick. And then
did he punch him in the face for me?
He slapped him so hard in the chest, it looked like it knocked that smug little look off his face for a few seconds. It was awesome. Right there, Walter won my heart.
I like him already.
Yeah, me too. Overall, I would have to say that this pay-per-view was probably 3/4 thumbs up. It wasn't a thumbs up hit run. It wasn't a halfway.
Not a complete thumbs up.
It was kind of in the middle.
I'm gonna give it in the middle. Yeah.
And I think that if we get more used to these wrestlers, I think we may get more excited about it. And I think this is our first pay-per-view. Mm-hmm. I think as we move along, like the weeks and months go by, the next NXT takeover will be a lot even better than this. Well, hopefully by then too we'll know the guys. They'd be a little more invested in the matches.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
All right. Well, you know what? I think we have been yabbering for quite a while. I think we should take a little break about now. And when we come back, you're going to lead us through a little bit of Impact. We're going to talk a little bit of Ring of Honor, MLW, and end our show today with what I'm going to say was a phenomenal interview.
See, today's show, normally these are regular episodes. This episode is the episode that, well, I'll get into that later on.
Yeah, it seems that way.
I'll get into that later. All
right, so folks, go grab yourself another Canada Dry. If you're in the States, go grab whatever diabetic-causing soda you want to drink. And when we get back, we'll talk some more wrestling.
Sounds good.
Hello, this is Miguel Cole from the Wrestling POV podcast. Wrestling POV and Wrestling POV Global is affiliated with the Collar and Elbow brand. Go to collarandelbowbrand.com and save yourself 10% by using promo code WPOV. Collar and Elbow has t-shirts, hoodies, sunglasses, and more. And the best part, you're helping out your local indie wrestlers. And you're helping out the best wrestling podcast of all, Wrestling POV and Wrestling POV Global. You don't want to miss out. So save yourself 10% by using promo code WPOV. Oh my goodness!
This is Flip Gordon, and you are listening to Wrestling POV Podcast.
Hey folks, we're back. Elio, you are getting up to the batter's plate, and you are going to hit a home run. Let's talk Impact, brother.
Impact Wrestling. Okay, so this past Friday, Impact Wrestling debuted on the Pursuit channel. Now, I don't want to get Miguel Cole's hater alert, so I went into this with an open mind, positive thoughts, and I was expecting maybe, we'd be the same Impact that we've been used to seeing for the past few weeks. But it was surprisingly pretty good. The crowd was really into it. A lot of action on this week, and it began with Johnny Impact in the ring. He was addressing the attack from Killer Cross on himself and Ty Valkyrie at the end of Homecoming.
Now, it's important to point out, fans, we didn't watch the Homecoming Impact. Well, I don't know if you saw it. I watched a bit of it.
I saw the Impact.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, we didn't cover it here on the show, but the only thing of note we should mention is Taya Valkyrie did win the Women's Championship.
Yes. So we had the Lucha Brothers. Now, this was a pretty good match. I really liked these guys. The Lucha Brothers defeating the Rascals.
And the Lucha Brothers being Pentagon, Junior, and Phoenix.
And Phoenix, yep.
I like this match.
Now, I went into this with an open mind, and then this is where it started going downhill.
Uh-oh, what happened? Wait.
Now,
you're
Rich Swann, anyway.
Yeah, you're not talking the Lucha Brothers still, are you? You're on to the next match.
No, I'm on to the next segment.
All right.
The Lucha Brothers, the next segment, Rich Swann, the new X Division champion, came out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he came out for an interview, and then out came Sami Callihan.
Your favorite, OVE brother.
Yeah, I'm sure you're mistaken about that. So, Sami Callihan comes out with an OVE t-shirt and offering Rich Swann a position in OVE.
Doesn't he realize he's not from Ohio? I thought you had to be part of Ohio to be an OVE. Well, silly me, but go on.
I'm not sure, but apparently these two have a history, which if I believe I've said in the past episodes, I've done videos for many independent pay-per-views, just like practicing and getting better. So on many of the independent shows, like Full Impact and such, Sami Callihan and Rich Swann have been on both on those cards. Yeah,
they've had a lot of feuding down in the Florida area, I believe.
Yeah.
All right.
And then that led into Willie Mack, because he faced Sami Callihan in the next match.
And I believe Willie Mack won that one, did he not?
Yeah, Willie Mack won that match.
And it was actually a pretty good match, folks. It's hard to say Sami Callihan and good match in the same sentence, but it was kind of a good match.
Now, the Impact's been saying how they're going to become edgier, and I guess they're going like the Attitude Era route.
Oh, brother. Could you go on?
TJ, did you see this next segment? Scarlett Bordeaux came out for her Spoke show.
Oh, man. I almost want you to skip this. This is Scarlett Bordeaux is becoming like the dead chick that we never talk about. You know, in those segments.
Yeah, I can because I don't even know if I want to talk about who came out.
Yeah, let's just skip this. Like,
we're gonna skip
Scarlett Bordeaux. You've gone on our bad list along with what is the chick's name? Sue Young or something? The dead alley, all that crap. Yeah, that's on our never talk about list. Moving on.
Well, Tessa Blanchard.
Yes.
One of my favorites. I do like Tessa Blanchard.
I do. Very good wrestler.
She defeated Callie Collins or something. I guess that's the name.
Okay, Callie. Yeah, I had a hard time figuring out the girl's name, too. They didn't really say what it was, but it said Callie on her shorts.
Yeah, no, I picked it up.
Okay, excellent.
And then the next segment. We've talked about how we're so over Tommy Dreamer.
Ugh, yes.
So is this Tommy Dreamer 2.0? Because Eddie Edwards was being interviewed and he was holding a kendo stick.
Oh, he's always trying to... I like Eddie Edwards, but it seems like he's trying to rip off every gimmick he can and mix them together in some kind of weird cocktail. you know.
And Eli Drake confronted him and was asking him what all that's about.
Mm-hmm.
So not much to go there, but the main event was pretty good.
Yes, it was.
Killer Cross, and Johnny Impact.
No DQ.
No DQ.
It wasn't for the belt, though.
No,
it wasn't for the belt. It was a no DQ match.
No. It was just a no DQ match, but they did this one spot where they were both face to face outside the ring. They kept throwing the steel chairs into the ring.
What do you think?
But yeah, this was
it was a good match.
No, so I was saying this is a good match.
Okay, Johnny Impact. You know what? I have a hard time seeing Johnny Impact as a world champion. I think I don't mind if he's like a U.S. Intercontinental kind of a mid champion. Killer Cross is starting to wear on me a bit. I'm starting to enjoy him more than I thought. Mm-hmm. He's interesting. He's still a little boring, but I'm not a fan of the Johnny Impact. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm not really a fan. I've never really been a fan of the Johnny Impact character, or John Morrison, or whatever he likes to call
Johnny,
him.
whatever he is this week.
Yeah. I read up on Killer Cross because I was curious to learn about this guy. Mm-hmm. Like, he made his debut in Impact as a backstage security guard. He arrested P.D. Williams on an episode of Impact. And then I guess later on in the show, in the secluded area, because they were trying to figure out who was going around attacking everyone.
And it was him?
And it was him. He was in the secluded area. He was beating P.D. Williams down, and he told him that he was the one attacking everyone.
Oh. Well, you know what? You sent me, I believe, some weird thing with Killer Cross breaking a cinder block with his hand against someone's head.
No, I think that was Rick.
Was it Rick who sent that? Okay, whoever it was.
Because
that was ridiculous. Do you remember that?
I said, ouch.
Yeah, okay.
I felt, my head felt that. Because that was, he did it on Trevor Lee.
Stuff like that is a little much. It's like Braun Strowman flipping an ambulance over. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yo.
But I like Killer Cross. Please don't make him a champion. He is probably one of the more aesthetically boring wrestlers I've seen in a long time. And Johnny Impact is kind of one of the most boring guys I've seen in a long time. I don't know who Impact should make champion. Maybe Eddie Edwards? At least he's interesting. I don't know. Maybe Moose. How about Moose? I don't know.
Oh, that's why. Yes, Killer Cross won the match
because of Moose.
Due to interference from Moose. Yep.
Well, pleasant surprise. Impact was not horrible. I know you had to go in with no expectations, and we were rewarded. It wasn't so bad.
I mean, the crowd was into it. They kept chanting. They kept chanting for Killer Cross.
Well, the one thing I find interesting about this is let's see how Impact is going to retain any audience. They are now on up here in Canada, we get it on the Fight app, or not Fight app. What do we get? Impact. Where do we get Impact? I don't know. I get it from a weird site. I don't know if we do, but I do know in the States, if you're trying to get Impact, it's on some obscure channel. Was it the Pursuit, Hunting and Pursuit channel?
The Pursuit channel. An even more obscure channel than Destination America.
Yeah, which was very, very obscure.
Because I hadn't heard of that, but no one's heard of the Pursuit.
Hey, do you want to know something funny about Pursuit channel?
What's that?
It is owned by the people who own Impact.
Oh, wow, yeah.
It's their own network. Then. It's the only place they could find was put their show on their own network because no one else wanted it. Oh, Impact.
So wait, shouldn't it be a Canadian channel then?
Well, it's owned by a Canadian company, but it's through it's an American channel because they put it out through the U.S. trying to, I don't know, make money on this genre or whatever. So hey, if you stay after wrestling, you can learn how to, I don't know, hunt an animal, trap something. I don't know. It's pursuit something. It's something weird, but wow.
Yeah. So but overall, it wasn't a good show. Wasn't a bad show. It wasn't a great show. Wasn't a bad show.
Okay.
It was in between. It was in the middle show.
All right. Well, let's take a look at ROH Ring of Honor this week, and I'm going to have to say Ring of Honor's show this week was actually pretty good. It still suffers from the fact that these shows we're watching were taped at least 2 weeks before, so we know if it's anything big what's already happened through social media. However, the matches tend to deliver, and this show delivered, I think, pretty good. First of all, your good friend Zack Sabre defeating Tracy Hot Sauce Williams in a match that I actually really enjoyed because...
I'll get him. I'm sure you're mistaken about that. I want to punch Sabre in the face.
I'm with you. Anyways, Tracy Williams, you know what I enjoyed about this match? Is for the first time, it wasn't like 90% of the time of Zack Sabre smugly wrapping someone up and doing stuff and somebody getting 10% info.
No,
Williams got a lot of offense. And he took it to him.
This guy gave Zack Sabre a match.
Yeah, and I enjoyed
like,
that.
There were a few times, like, he scored, like, near falls on Sabre.
Yeah, and Zack Sabre, of course, got the win. Can you believe this is only his second appearance in ROH? He seems like he's a real fit for this company. I hope they use him more, because they have wrestlers who, Jonathan Gresham put on a tremendous show at the last pay-per-view. I want to see some other guys in there with him. See how their styles mesh. Now, this one is a weird one because this has been a bit of a feud going on. Madison Rayne and, are you ready for this? Dr. Britt Baker. She calls herself Dr. Britt Baker.
Yeah, apparently she's a dentist.
Yeah, because you can really see her.
Cole's girlfriend.
Yeah, you can really see how educatedly smart she is in there. Anyways.
I'm not a fan of Britt Baker.
No, she's not very good.
Britt Baker.
They defeated Twisted Sisters, Holly Dead, and Thunder Rosa. Now, I've heard of these girls a lot on the independent.
Okay.
Interesting look. Not sure if I like it.
Yeah, it's the face paint kind of weird.
Yeah.
Face paint on women wrestlers.
Now, I hope this doesn't sound sexist or rude, but man, Madison Rayne is an incredible looking woman for a girl who's had a bunch of kids and in her mid-30s. She looks incredible in there.
And Josh Matthews is lucky.
So... The thing that sucks here is that Madison Rayne and Dr. Britt Baker score the win over Twisted Sisters. However, this was their second meeting where they each got a thing. And then Baker, I forgot to mention this, was one of the people who signed with AEW. She's the first woman besides Brandy who's put her name in. Okay. Yeah, I forgot about that.
No, we're not gonna do it. I wonder if they're gonna have an AEW Women's Championship.
Well, if they're signing women's wrestlers, they better. But I don't.
They're gonna. What are they gonna put Brandy in there as well?
Well, Brandy always wants to wrestle, and Britt Baker. Yeah, I don't even know what to say without sounding like a jerk. So I'm going to move on. In the main event, the Briscoes retained their belts over SCU. Now, we know that SoCal was off to AEW, but this still was a pretty tremendous match. The Briscoes are always fun to watch in tag team situations. These guys they put on a heck of a show. I think they're just really one of the most underrated tag teams in the last 5 years.
Actually, I wanted to bring something up. I forgot to bring up in the last segment.
Yes.
Speaking of SCU, Frankie Kazarian, one thing that Impact does, they show a match from their vault on the GFW.
Oh yeah, I never mentioned those crappy vault things, but go on.
And then I feel that kind of slows the show down, but I wanted to bring that up because this week they showed X Division match. I believe it was the Ultimate X with Frankie, involving Frankie Kazarian.
Did he have hair back then?
Yep.
Yeah, it's quite a bit of difference, eh?
Yeah.
I'm going to throw you out another funny little Frankie Kazarian fact. He was originally offered a contract with the WWE years ago. Mm-hmm. Do you know why he refused to sign?
Why?
Because they wanted him to cut his hair.
Oh, wow.
And he thought that would take away from all his value and his look. So he didn't sign with them, and now he's totally bald and doing his own thing. And it's like, you missed the boat there, Frankie.
Man.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, you know what? The Briscoes, great match. I really enjoy watching these guys. There are a few little dumb things, or not dumb things, like, little kind of backstage things. There's two little things I want to point out that happened. Mm-hmm. Silas Young and Beer City Bruiser having a bit of now they're no longer friends, apparently. And Beer City Bruiser says they can be friends. Silas Young says, no, you're a loser who could never run with me. They face each other next week.
We're never friends. Yep.
Yeah. Next week they face each other in a match. So that is going to be interesting. And, of course, it was the introduction of Villains Incorporate, where Marty Scurll comes out. He says he wants to challenge Jay Lethal. Of course, out comes Matt Taven in the Kingdom. And as much as we've made fun of Matt Taven in the Kingdom, starting to enjoy those guys a lot more, Mm-hmm. They surround the ring and tell Marty, you know what, Marty? I'm the real champion, of course, because Taven is delusional and still carrying around an old belt claiming he's the champion. Then he says, sorry?
Yeah, but he's Matt Taven.
Yeah, he's Matt Taven. Anyhow, he says, alluding to how all the elite have left, that Marty's on his own now, so three of them are going to kick the crap out of him. Lights go out. Out comes Brody Lee. Lights go out again. And PCO comes out. The start of Villain.
You know what?
Do I know what?
This guy looks so different than when he was in the Quebecers.
Dude, he's 51 years old.
No, I know what I'm saying.
He was like he was under 30 when he was in the WWE.
But then the idea is like one half of his head shaved and the other half he has hair.
Yeah, Elio, it's been over 25 years since you've seen him.
Yeah. I'm saying he looks different.
I think he's incredible right now. A guy at his age making an impact in making an impact. Sorry, bad pun. Making such waves in wrestling. I hope he does. I hope we get to see him in ROH a little more. I'm excited. The fans, did you notice the fans are screaming PCO more than anyone else? Fans are buying into him. So Pierre Carlouet, I'm interested to see, it's been a long career. I'm interested to see you finish some of it in ROH and prove, you still got a lot left in the tank.
That's what I'm saying. The guy looks different. He looks he looks great.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually kind of prefer how he looks now than what the Mountie used to look like. So,
yeah.
So you know what? Overall, I'm going to give ROH a thumbs up this week. Pretty good match.
Thumbs up, yep. Especially that moonsault that he did from the top rope. Mm-hmm. He took out the Kingdom, or whatever it was, that flip that he did. Wow.
Good stuff. Now, our last company we're going to look at this week kind of started bizarre, then got boring, and then got really good. I'm talking about Major League Wrestling. Now, I'm going to say bizarre because we didn't cover this while we were off on our little break and doing our little shows and whatnot. We missed this part. Low Key taking on Conan.
Okay, yeah.
Now, I even feel weird saying this, but Low Key shanked Conan with a screwdriver in the back. He stabbed him with blood.
Ouch.
Yeah, that's how the match ended. I know MLW is trying to be a little bit different, but I'm not sure how I feel like he stabbed his opponent with a screwdriver in the kidneys. That's what they're saying. It was a kidney injury.
Wow. Well, because I'm seeing all this blood, and I was like, well, what did he do? Did he get him in the face or something?
No, he jabbed him with a shank. He made a shank out of a screwdriver, sharpened it up, and stabbed him in the kidneys with it. That's a little weird for wrestling. It's a little much. But then, if you remember at the beginning of this match, did you see what Conan did to Low Key? He hit him in the face with a sock full of coins, and that split open Low Key. So I guess you get what you get, right? If you're going to mess with the boys, you're going to get it back. But I still think this is an ultra-violent, weird way to portray wrestling. We'll see where it goes.
Isn't this what they do in CZW or something?
Yeah. You know what? I don't want to go that far,
Yeah.
Low Key, though, let's face it, man. I'll tell you. He is a man of honor. He may only be 4'6", but he will shank you in your kneecaps.
It's Low Key here.
Yeah. Look down. You'll have to look down. He's very small. They keep talking about how Low Key has not. Now, I'm going to have to go back and listen to that because I was listening to the very last part. I wanted to go over some stuff, and I was going over that part just before we went on air. And I could have swore they said Low Key has been undefeated since he entered the company in 2004. And I know MLW was around for a while, then it wasn't, and now it's back. But wow, 2004, that's a hell of a long time to not lose a match. Especially when you're only 5'1". I mean, he's a little man with a big voice. Yep. Anyways, he's taking on Tom Lawler, which I think is going to be a fun match. The more I see of dirty Tom Lawler, or filthy Tom Lawler, the more I find him interesting. And for me, it's what it always is about. You make it interesting, I might invest in it.
Now, I have to say, though, about next week's matches that were announced.
Well, let's get to the end of the show, Alio, and then we can talk about next week's matches. Gringo Loco. I don't get this guy. This in LA Park was a terrible match.
I have a question. Yeah. What kind of match was this?
What do you mean? What kind of match was it?
Was it like a no DQ or something?
No, they just were really lax on the rules, it seemed.
Well, because I saw LA Park just power bombed Gringo onto two chairs. They set up outside the ring.
Yeah. Okay, and you know what's really funny about this? It's okay to see luchadors do these kind of crazy moves, right? But Gringo Loco is so fat and slow, and so is LA Park. How can you make falling off the top of the lighting look extremely slow? It looked slow motion when he jumped up. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't say jump. There was no jumping. He fell onto LA Park from the top of that thing, and that was the saddest looking thing I've seen in so long.
I mean, like, when I saw LA Park, I'm like, is this the same guy?
Unfortunately, it is. It is the same guy. But that means he's got to be 110 now.
But, like, he looks so out of shape.
Dude, he was never the good shape to begin with, but yes.
No, I mean, I remember, like, when, like, he was, like, in WCW, he was, like, all, like, moving around the ring now.
Oh, yeah, this was... Gringo Loco did not show me anything. I don't get his gimmick. He's a white guy who thinks he's Mexican. Is that what his thing is? Because he's definitely a white guy. He dresses like a Mexican. He tries to wrestle like a Mexican. If you were the slowest, fattest Mexican around, you could maybe wrestle at his speed. But, yeah, he made LA Park seem fast. And LA Park is slow.
Are they both faces?
No. LA Park is with that group. The Salinas, whatever, low keys group. Okay. So no, LA Park is definitely not a good guy.
Yeah, half the arena was chanting for Gringo, half was chanting for Park.
Yeah, and I was chanting for my money back because, man, if that's what I paid to see, I was definitely ripped off.
Well, no, but the next match was pretty good.
Okay, before we get to the next match, though, okay, Koto Brazil,
yes.
What a terrible, terrible promo that was. He should be ashamed of himself. He should have said, "Hey, that was bad. Can we just skip me this week? I'll go home and practice some more."
Yeah, that was terrible.
That was a pretty terrible promo.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, one thing I want to point out in the LA Park match is when his entrance came on and he had that video. That was cool. That was like WWE level stuff with the Day of the Dead thing going on. I thought that was really unique. Oh, yeah. That looked pretty cool.
That was cool. Yeah.
Then they showed us highlights of Ace Romero beating Simon Gotch for the $20,000 challenge.
That elbow that he dropped on Gotch.
It was so awesome.
That was so great.
It was awesome. I always laugh at things when things are dumb. When he won the $20,000, he started throwing it into the crowd. Remember that? Then they interview him. And they're like, "What are you going to do with the money?" And he's like, "Well, half of it, I'm a hungry guy because I'm super fat. And the other half," and then he gives a weird look, like we're supposed to know what he's up to. Like, I just was like very lost in that. I'm like, am I missing something? Yeah. I don't get what he's getting at. Maybe I'm too old for this stuff. Maybe the kids get it. Kids, if you know what the hell he's talking about, send old men like me and Elio a message saying this is what he was talking about because we have no clue.
Yeah.
And then, okay, I'm going to tell you something, Elio. I have known Teddy Hart for a very long time. I've seen him wrestle. I've interviewed him. I've hung out with him. I never know what to expect. And when I saw that it was going to be Teddy Hart versus I can't think of his name.
Pentagon Jr.
Pentagon Jr. My goodness, it's getting late. Pentagon Jr., my hopes were a bit up. But then when I saw Davey Boy Smith Jr. wearing, I don't know what the hell he was wearing, but that was some of the goofiest clothes I've seen in a while. And then Brian...
were wondering.
Yeah, and then Brian Pillman Jr. wearing, which I can only gather was a bathrobe that he took from somewhere. And when they came out and started interfering, I thought, this is going to be a shit match. It's not going to be good.
Yeah.
Then it got very good. I mean, Pentagon Jr. executing a Canadian destroyer on the ring apron of all. How crazy dangerous is that? And then does another one from a rolling position in the ring. It was a tremendous match. The only thing I thought was the ending was a little bit blah. You know, they're fighting, they're doing all these crazy things. And then just all of a sudden, Pentagon goes down and it's over. And it didn't seem like there was even anything legit that took him down. It was just like, okay, we're reaching the end of TV time. Just lay down for the pin. That's what I felt like. But overall, pretty good match. What did you think of the match?
Yeah, like I said, Pentagon Jr., like, his matches are so entertaining. I love the way he moves around the ring and some of the moves he executes. Did
you see Teddy Hart slipping up on the one move? He jumped on his back and he tried to I think what he tried to do was move forward and do a flip and pull him down. Instead, he just fell flat on his back. Yeah. And it was obvious he missed.
Yeah, I saw it.
And then he went up and tried something else. Yep. And the announcers cover up for him so good. They're like, well, you know, when you do a lot of crazy, unexpected moves like Teddy Hart does, sometimes you don't always get them.
Yeah.
The look on Teddy Hart's face when he fell down was like, uh-oh.
Oh, man.
Overall, MLW this episode, I'd give it a half. It's halfway there.
Yeah, it started out bad, but it ended pretty good.
And I think the problem I see with MLW is this: you get like so professional graphics and things like LA Parks. You get some production values that are incredibly good. You get a great match like Teddy Hart and then you get crap promos like Cotto Brazil. You get some really dumb, shaky, horrible things. I'm not trying to dump on Cotto Brazil. He's a talented guy, but he really needs to work on his promos because that was an embarrassing promo. Yeah. That wasn't even like a bad. It's embarrassing.
Especially that one part is like, Ricky Martinez, I've got my eye on you.
Well, I like the part where he grabbed his eye patch and went, well, I'm wearing this eye patch. I can't take it off. And he's like kind of snapping it and stuff. I'm like, really, dude, if you were that hurt. Yeah, it was just poorly done. And I think maybe MLW should have, if they're not going to have much script writers, at least help the guys with the promos. Give them bullet points to say or something. But very poor. I enjoy Cotto Brazil's wrestling, but he needs to work on promos 101. Well, you know what? Would you say that today's episode was fun, Elio?
No.
No, it wasn't fun? No, I'm talking, we're done MLW. We're done all that. I meant our episode right now.
No, it wasn't fun.
It wasn't fun today?
It was phenomenal.
Oh my God, you read my mind. This is why you're my partner, brother. That's right. It was phenomenal, and we're going to make it even more phenomenal. About 2 years ago, I had a chance just before AJ Styles went into the WWE, caught up with him at a Prairie Wrestling Alliance show in Edmonton. Got about 6 or 7 minutes of talking about him. He was talking a bit about being in the Bullet Club, talking about wrestling bigger guys, all kinds of fun stuff. Folks, sit back for a phenomenally good time. And Elio, let's take a listen and you tell me what you think.
All right.
Hey fans, we're backstage here at PWA's 13th anniversary show. Got to talk to definitely one of the biggest headliners that we've had in a while. A guy I've got to see a couple times. I'm talking about the phenomenal AJ Styles. First of all, AJ, welcome back to Alberta.
Thank you. I always love coming to Canada and wrestle, man. Some of the best fans in the world. I mean, we all know that. And I do believe this may be my third appearance here. And it's always a pleasure.
Now, while obviously the weather wasn't a pleasure, I'm sure where you flew in from, the snow was not the best.
You know, this is Canada, and I don't expect it to be warm up here. So I'm getting pretty accustomed to the fact that when I come here, there's going to be snow. It's not going to be warm. I'm going to be prepared.
Now, you know, right now I've taken a look at, we've seen all across boards about all the touring you're doing right now, fighting wrestlers all across North America. What's that feel like now to be coming in and facing such top guys all across the indie world?
Well, it's definitely a challenge, you know, coming in and wrestling some of the best, you know, wrestlers in the world, literally. But it's also a blessing, you know, that I'm going to have a lot of dream matches for fans, and that's what it's all about. And you know, when it comes right down to it, it's what the fans want. It's not what I want. It's what I can give them. You know, I got one gear, you know, and it's all or nothing. And it doesn't matter if there's, you know, 50 or 50,000, you know, I'm going to come out here and put on a great show.
Well, one of the things I got to ask you, it must be a little bit tough in the fact that you're going into all these different territories. Half these guys you've heard out and wrestled before, but a lot of times you're coming into a territory where it's the top guy in a territory you may have never heard of or wrestled before. How do you adjust to that kind of thing?
Well, I mean, that's...
I only need you for like...
No, hold on. So, do you hear him yelling? This is him yelling. For no reason at all. Yeah, okay.
Your dad was looking for you.
No, he's not done yet yelling.
We'll edit all that out.
As far as, you know, coming in and wrestling guys, some I may not know, you got to adjust. That's the way it is, and you know, adjust to how good or how, you know, maybe not so good these guys are, and adapt. You know, not only to this wrestler style, but to the fans, because different fans want to see different stuff. It's not always the you know, the crazy high flying matches. Maybe sometimes it's just they want to see technical. Maybe they want more entertainment. So you have to adapt to whatever the fans and whatever the wrestlers, you know, what the needs of these fans and wrestlers are.
So for an AJ Styles dream thing, what kind of matches do you like to go into? What is it you like to do out there?
I like to wrestle, man. I don't want to have gimmick matches. I think that I'm capable of getting in a ring and not having a single gimmick whatsoever involved and having a wonderful match. That's what it's all about. So yeah, one-on-one match is, you know, usually my favorite.
Now tonight you got to face our PWA's original Marky. They call him the original because he's been here, one of the guys, for 13 years. How did you feel coming out of facing Marky tonight?
I didn't know a lot about Mark, but he's definitely got what it takes. I think that we went out there and had a fantastic match. The fans certainly approved by their applause, and that, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, man. And to go in there not knowing a guy, not knowing his style, but him and I working so well together, like a well-oiled machine. There's something to be said about that. There's not a lot of people that are going to have to wrestle a guy for the first time and have good chemistry. Him and I did.
You know what? The fans seem to really enjoy it. Last question I'm going to ask you tonight. What's the immediate future looking for AJ Styles? What are your goals right now?
The immediate future is I'm wrestling. I'm going to be wrestling. I'm going to wrestle some of the top guys in Ring of Honor. Looks like I'm going to get to the opportunity to wrestle some guys in Japan with Ring of Honor and New Japan working together. That's very exciting for me. I've always been a New Japan fan, since I started in this business and learned a lot from them. So having the opportunity to work with them is something special for me. So sky's the limit, man. I am looking forward to it. Everybody's questions, hey, when you coming back to TNA? Listen, the door is open. Never say never. But I think I'm going to explore what the wrestling world has to offer.
Well, you know what? Thank you very much for coming on the show, and we look forward to seeing you. We know we're going to see you apparently in a couple months here again, so best of luck on your schedule, and thank you for taking time to talk to us.
Thanks for talking to me. You guys are the great fans of Canada, man. Always the best.
Wow. What'd you think, Elio? That was quite the thing.
Normally, these episodes are good because we're the ones that built them, but today's episode is the episode that AJ Styles built.
Yeah, oh my Lord, you have got the catchphrases. Yes, and you know what, folks? We have some other great things. I got to tell you, listening to today's episode, I'm going to somehow drag out a Teddy Hart interview coming up that if you thought the guy was a little bit crazy now, after listening to this interview, you're going to think he's a wackadoodle on crack cocaine, okay? I don't even know. I thought for sure. Elliot, do you ever have those moments where you're sitting across, like I've interviewed guys, okay? I've interviewed tough guys, scary guys, nice guys. It's rare that I ever get into an interview where there's a guy who I think is just like, I can't read him. And it was the very first time I met Teddy Hart. Since then, I've gotten to know him. I understand his craziness and his eccentricities. But at that moment, he said something, and he was serious. And he said this to me, and he said it seriously. And I started laughing, and then I glanced at him and realized he wasn't joking. He was serious. And then I realized this guy would stab me in the face with a knife if I laugh at something he says. So I'm going to shut up and just let him talk. And that's what I did. And it turned out to be a crazy wackadoodle night. But Elio, thanks for joining me this week again. This was a really fun time. We got to see. Yep. We didn't at least we could have went the crazy route, watched all those pay-per-views, could have had another 16-hour week of wrestling. I think we both do not want to start the new year burnt out. This is our first solo adventure of the new year. We've already got 2. We're starting a vault this year, fans. If you see matches along the way that we've talked about and we've never said anything about the vault, tell us. We'll reback and we'll go look at them. And if we look at it and go, hey, we missed that the first time, that's vault approval, because at the end of the year, we will do, just like on Wrestling Podcast, POV, we will go through all these matches, make a little tournament, and figure out which is, by you guys, the match of the year. And
I downloaded an app from the iTunes store. It's called Grapple, which is GRAPPL. And this is an app where you can look up matches. You can look them up by year or by match if you know a certain match and the wrestlers in it. And this app allows you to rate matches 1 to 5 stars.
Excellent. And it was called what again?
It's called Grapple.
Grapple.
GRAPPL. Excellent.
And fans, if you like, there is an apple out right now that is mixed with a grape flavor called a Grapple. You might find that in your supermarket too. So. Fans, thank you for joining in. I am your host, TJ Logan. Have yourself a good night. Elio, say good night to the people.
All right, listeners, have a great night, and we will talk to you all next week.